You sign up for Verizon and you go, all right, I want unlimited calls, unlimited texts, till death do us part. You sign a contract. And then all of a sudden, Verizon calls you one day and says, hey, I'm not in the mood to let you text anymore. If a man is truly paying the bill, rising up to his standard, and his wife decides, you know what, this whole sex thing is just not really in the cards anymore, a man will then hold his standard and go, well, that doesn't work here. I'm holding my teammate accountable more than anything and not willing to settle. And that's how a man can stand in his power. And he can be like, I'm not threatening that you have to have sex with me, but I am telling you that this relationship will not last very long if we do not have sex. When a man stands in that kind of power, it's so fucking attractive because it mirrors the only lever he had when he was single.
2 quick questions metrically. Out of 10 men, how many are paying the bill in your experience? What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Tribe of Millionaires podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Gruber. It's my job here to dissect peak performance by talking to some of the most incredible, accomplished people in the world. My guest today, Keith Yackey, has done it all from being a pastor to dating porn stars. He's seen many walks of life and can relate to what really works in today's world to getting your wife attracted to you again. With a deep passion for this one singular purpose of reigniting marriages, Keith has created a life-changing and groundbreaking process that has already saved hundreds of marriages. Keith is a speaker, co-host of the Married Game podcast, and founder of the Ascend Brotherhood. Keith is committed to helping married men learn how to get their wives to want to have sex with them again. Check him out at marriedgame.com. There it is, man. Welcome.
Thank you, Jamie. Appreciate you having me on, and this should be fun.
Of course. Let's start with this. People are going to listen to this. My audience is mostly men, mostly high net worth men. Why do married high net worth men listening to this call, listening to this podcast, why should they continue to listen today? What will they get from hearing our discussion today? Well,
if the stat that 85% of men are not happy with the quantity or quality within the sex within their marriage, if that's true, which I believe it is, I've discovered that that's true, then I would say 8.5 out of 10 guys listening to this are probably saying, well, shit, if there's something I can learn on here to get laid a little more, especially I specifically work with guys who are, they know how to get paid and for some reason have forgotten how to get laid within their own marriage. And so I would say that if that's a piece that they are intrigued about, which most men I know are, this would probably benefit them.
Why are you focused specifically on sex in marriage versus more broad concepts like communication or partnership or whatever? Like, what's so important about sex from your perspective, other than obviously it's amazing, but why is it so important that you focus specifically on that aspect of a marriage?
I think it's the first thing that a guy knows, whether it's good or not. And so I look at sex as actually just the fruit on the tree. When a guy works with me, we say, this is going to come if we actually work on the root of the tree. So when I work with people and you hear my teachings, sex is just the byproduct of having deep connection, being a great parent, being a great partner, being a great producer, being a great player, and standing within your own power within your marriage. So I actually do work on the partnership and the connection and those types of things. But a man knows instantly, dude, I'm getting rejected all the time. I'm not getting the kind of sex I want. My wife is just laying there like a starfish and just basically saying, hurry up. So I feel like this is just that indicator that lets them know something isn't right. And so that's why I talk about it.
For context for people listening, you're the expert in this space, man. Your brand is amazing. What you put out there is incredible. And I know just by watching and observing, we haven't met before, but you can tell when somebody's passionate about the topic. You've not always been the perfect husband. Can you give a little context on that, just so folks have a sense of where you came from?
So not perfect, Jamie. That a little over 6 years ago, my wife left me, and she basically said my life would be better without you in it. And so she goes, you run your business, you come home and talk about your business, and you fall asleep on the couch, and that's not what we signed up for. So I helped her and my 2-year-old daughter load up the U-Haul, and they drove off. And that was about ready to be my second divorce. And I realized right in that singular moment, fuck, I'm the problem, which means I'm the solution. And so I feel like the reason why I'm so passionate about it is because there's a lot of stuff that's being taught in the marketplace, and good amazing, smart, resourceful, badass dudes are like, why can I be so abundant in this area and yet feel such scarcity in this area? And then they're trying whatever the local, people are saying what to do. They're going to the psychologist, they're going to psychiatrists, and like, this shit's actually not working. And so I just go, well, fuck, if I'm loud enough and speak with the true authenticity that comes from my heart, there are men that actually hear it and go, oh, wait a second. You're telling me there's actually a way to save my marriage so I don't have to tear up my family. And there's a way that I can do it where I'm not feeling like a pussy or a pushover or pandering to my wife, but I can actually stand in my power. Well, that's very congruent for a guy that's used to making a lot of money and having people like, anybody who makes an abundance of dough, it's because they've offered a tremendous amount of value or solved a really cool problem in the world. And if you do that, you have the respect and the adoration of a lot of people, and you are just frustrated that why doesn't your wife see you that way? So I feel like it just hits at the core of who I was and what a piece of shit I was. I thank God I got her back, but it was when I got her back that I realized, dude, I've got to become the most attractive version of me for me. And so I just feel like there's so many wrong things that guys believe that we were never taught, that for some reason I get to be the guy that say, hey, there's another way. And actually, if you do this, you're going to really be proud of who you are as a person, no matter what.
When you do coaching calls, I know you do a lot of coaching calls with men, and I've heard you say you often are able to very quickly identify just by their language where, okay, right there, that's something that you need to be aware of. Maybe you're not understanding exactly how that's coming across to your wife. Can you identify any trends in that? Things that maybe you don't realize they're saying. So people listening, me included, like, what am I saying to my wife that I don't understand, or saying even to myself that I don't understand is sabotaging my ability to not only get laid, but to have a great relationship with my wife?
All right, I'm going to use an analogy that all of us entrepreneurs are going to instantly recognize right off the bat. We wear entrepreneurial interview hat during the day, all day. We've got employees, we've got clients, and so people look up to us. But what I've discovered is that most guys, when they come home, they then put on the employee hat, like they're checking in to make sure that their wife is happy, because we bought into the happy wife, happy life thing. Or they go, oh shit, I need to do more around the house because I'm supposed to show up and do more around the house. Or I should buy my wife more gifts, or I should say yes to her and be more agreeable. And what happens is we go, well, yeah, these are great actions. You should do more around the house. You should be a servant leader. You should buy your wife a gift every once in a while. You should spend more time with her. But what I've discovered is that the actions are always accompanied with a wrong attitude. And it's an attitude of, I need validation. I need appreciation. I need something from her. And so what happens is, where you, in the marketplace, you're of service to people. I'm here to serve my clients for their best interest. But then what happens, they take the interview hat off. They come in and take the interview hat on, hoping to get the mother's approval, their wife's approval. And then what happens, what's so damn interesting, is then they start seeking this validation. They start getting needy and desperate. They won't get what they want, and then they settle for it. And then they start getting this needy, pouty, bitchy attitude that's almost like saying, I'm the employee now, and you're my mission just to make you happy. And a woman's like, that's not what attracted me to you in the first place. And so it's a whole loss of attraction. So whenever I hear these types of words where guys like, I'm just trying to make my wife happy, I'm like, well, then you're going to be fucked the rest of your life. Or actually, you're not going to get fucked the rest of your life.
Opposite, right.
So it's these energy things that I can tell of why a guy's doing what he's doing. And you can tell because it reeks of taker energy.
How am I in service to my wife without reeking of taker energy then?
Because you do it because that's your standard.
Going more on that. Well, how do I know that that's the standard I've set?
Yeah, well, I'm okay. Let me give you an example. So I take my wife on a date every week. Not because she's so hot, not because she's so awesome, not because she's the most amazing wife in the world. But because my standard is, if you're with me, we're going on a date once a week, because dating is very important to me, and that's my standard. I like to be fit. I like to be, athletic. Not for my wife to be like, oh, wow, I can't wait to, touch you at night. It's because this is my standard. I do this for me. So the punchline of everything is become the most attractive version of you for you. I don't do anything to get laid, and I don't do anything for my wife specifically. I do it because this is my standard of who I am. Keith Yackey, put in another wife. And I jokingly say it on the podcast all the time. If my wife slips and bumps her head or just decides to wake up and be brain dead one day and says, I don't want this white-haired wonder anymore, then the answer is, okay, you can go do what you want, but put any woman in here and she's going to get the same level of treatment because that's Keith Yackey's standard. I'm not doing it for you to get something. I'm doing it because this is who I am. And I'm going to serve the shit out of my lady, but not with this attitude of, I hope you give me something.
Like, can we dissect this? And you might have said it in there. My mind is going as fast as probably I'm hearing going through this, which is great.
The key to life, it isn't money. It's happiness. And when you measure how happy you are, you actually become even more happy. Our friends at Gobundance, the tribe of millionaires, use a very specific tool to measure their happiness. It's called the Life Happiness Index. And you can have it too. Go over to Gobundance.com/LHI and take your Life Happiness Index assessment. You'll rate yourself in multiple categories on exactly how happy you are and get a custom output for you specifically that you can use in developing whatever goals you have for your life. Gobundance is the tribe of healthy, wealthy, generous people who choose to live epic lives. And the tool Gobundance members use at the base of all of that is the Life Happiness Index. Get out there and grab life big.
But I want to dissect this point because I hear what you're saying. Like, look, a lot of guys, me included, have the date night every week. Like the tactics are in place. Go to the gym every day, have a date night, be as attractive as they can for me. But what I hear in what you're talking about, there's this nuance between, yeah, okay, great. You're over here. You've got all the tactics lined up. You're doing all the things to be fit, spend time with your wife. You schedule vacations with your wife, with your family, all of those things. Yeah, I'm doing all that stuff. And then, okay, maybe when I come home, I've got more of like a desperate, or I forget the word you use, energy behind my actions or my desire to serve my wife. How do I find the connection between those two things? Like, how do I know? And we're going to get into the 5 dials. And when you know that when you've done the work and it's not right, they walk away. That's a really interesting concept. I want to know how we know that we've done the work. So maybe that's the beginnings of this question. How do I know, or how do I go from, I'm doing all the things you just said, Keith, but for some reason I'm not correlating that to my wife in the way that I want to. How do I make that connection more effectively? I hope I'm asking that question.
Let me mirror back to what I think what you're saying through my answer.
Yeah.
When you're doing all the things the right way, and I've never met a guy that's come in the married game and go, I'm doing it all right. They're gonna be like, I'm hitting a lot of these actions, but honestly, Keith, I do have a stinky attitude. Like, man, I am doing all this extra shit, hoping to get laid. And our women are bloodhounds, man. They can smell that taker energy from 17 miles away. But let's assume your side of the street is radically clean and you become the standard. You're all the things. You're the thing that any woman would want. When you become that, the nuance is now you hold your wife to a standard. Most guys are not willing to hold their wife to a standard. And I want to use an analogy that some people think is a little maybe simplistic, but I think it's really right on the money. And it's this. You sign up for Verizon, right? And you go, all right, I want unlimited calls, unlimited text, and maybe some international calls or whatever, right? And you sign a contract. Till death do us part. This is how we're doing this agreement. It doesn't change. And then all of a sudden, Verizon calls you one day and says, hey, I'm not in the mood to let you text anymore. Within 24 to 48 hours, have a sit down with Verizon and go, what do you mean by this? Well, yeah, I just, I've had a couple kids, and so texting isn't really my thing anymore. And so you would say, hey, whoa, that is not what we agreed upon. Period. And I'm paying the bill. And yet you now take things away. So if a man is truly paying the bill, rising up to his standard, and his wife decides, you know what, this whole sex thing is just not really in the cards anymore, a man will then hold his standard and go, well, that doesn't work here. We don't do that in this family. The same way that I am living at my standard, I don't just get to drop my standard and expect everything that you would want. No, I expect I'm holding my teammate accountable more than anything, and not willing to settle on that. And that's how a man can stand in his power. And he can be like, I'm not threatening that you have to have sex with me, but I am telling you that this relationship will not last very long if we do not have sex. And then we're going to have to come up with a different option, a different solution. When a man stands in that kind of power, it's so fucking attractive because it mirrors the only lever he had when he was single. But before I get into that, are we where are we at so far? Are you tracking with me? Okay.
I do. Two quick questions metrically. Out of 10 men, how many are paying the bill in your experience?
One.
One or less than one?
0.5 to 1. I rounded up from 0.5 to 1. I just figured there's no half guy out there.
All right. I should have said out of 100.
90. Okay, 5 out of 100.
5 out of 100. And out of 100 men that are holding the standard, that are paying the bill, how many of them would lose their wife because, it just doesn't work? I'm curious, like when somebody is doing it, when they are the full version of themselves as you've defined it, what's the rate at which failure happens?
Okay, I can tell you from my experience, I've had a little over 300 dudes come through our program, soup to nuts, from the beginning to the end. And I can tell you that 90% of them have got their wife to radically shift in a major direction. 5% of them have got they realized their wife was the problem, and their wife was like, this new version of you, I'm not into this guy. And I would say, okay, well, why would you let somebody ride shotgun in your life if they don't even like you? Like, that's ridiculous. And then the other 5% were just kind of just a really fucked up situation that was all together. So and here's why. And I make a promise to everybody that ever comes to our program: if you do the work and this doesn't work, I don't want your money. And I've had 0 refunds of people that have actually done the work. We've had a few jokers that don't do the work, and they're like, oh, like, bro, you didn't even fucking show up to the calls. You didn't do jack shit. So you can go fuck yourself. But for the people that actually have done the work, what happens is I say they get their backbone and their ball sack back. And that's exactly what caused their woman to be attracted to them in the beginning. And the reason why I was so confident, even before I had the 300 guys coming in, was I was like, dude, you're her type in the beginning. She liked you, that she said, yes, I do. And then went and had dependence with you, which is the ultimate, like, I trust you to help us. And this is a unit. So if she did all of that, there was something in you that you were her type in the beginning. So if you can become back to that and then exceed that, I've found that 95% of the women are fucking rooting for this dude. Yeah. So that's the statistics I found out of 300 guys. Maybe that's just too small of a sample set, but that's a lot. That's a very high percentage out of 300 dudes.
It's not surprising, because I think from my limited research on this this is what you live. You're right, and my wife would even say, like, she there's an attractiveness to the energy of a man, if you will, like that. Yeah. I don't want to say like that cocky energy, but that self-assured. Confident. I got this confident energy, right? So it makes a lot of sense. And when you overlay that with like a divorce rate nowadays, your success level is pretty high compared to those that are getting divorced.
Or hey, how about a family or marriage counseling rate? Do you know what that rate is?
No, I bet you it's worse.
9 to 13% success rate.
Well, I was going to ask you, I wrote this down. What is, if somebody's listening to this and going, okay, you know what? We've been talking about maybe a counselor. Like, what is it that a Keith Yackey brings to the table that a psychologist or counselor does not?
A lot of experience in one regard. First of all, we don't need your wife. We don't need to talk to your wife once. I think out of the 300 I've talked to, or maybe met 4 of the wives.
No shit.
4.
Wow.
And that's after, like, they go through the program, and next thing you know, that, oh my God, like, what did you do to my husband? And I get this really cool message, you know what I mean? Or I knew him somehow. It might be somewhere between 4 and 10. Mm-hmm. Okay. So it's like very little, number one. Number two, number two, the punchline of everything is attraction. Well, before my wife left me, I had sex with hundreds of women. So it wasn't like I didn't understand what true attraction meant and how to actually get a woman to be attracted to me. I'm not Brad Pitt. I mean, look at me, dude. I'm not Brad fucking Pitt. I know what cards I'm working with, dude. I might be a fucking face card and a low spade, but I know how to work my hand, and I understand it. So when I see it, so why Keith is, well, here's what it really is. I live everything I teach and preach to absolutely to the T, to the highest standard. And my wife is on the podcast telling you that. My wife is at our speeches a lot of times, and people go, hey, is what he's saying real? She goes, he actually genuinely is really this guy. It's why I love fucking him. And she goes, I hated this guy. This guy was the fucking worst. So I've not only that, and I've also been through this deep, dark tunnel of having her leave and then having to do the work on myself and actually having to get her back. So I just say real world psychology, real world results, and then a real world story that I actually went through, to where when I talk to a guy, I give every guy in Married Game a new middle name. You want to hear what it is?
Let's hear it.
So you would be Jamie motherfucking Gruber. Because what I would do for you is to show you, wait, why did you give over who you were? Why did you lose who you were? Well, I know why. Because modern day society is making men feel like for them to be the leader, that's a bad thing. And it's like, fuck you. Your wife wants to be led by a strong man. She just won't be led by a pussy.
That's interesting. I was going to ask about leadership. Is there ever a situation in which the man should not be the leader in the relationship with a woman in terms of attractiveness and getting more sex, getting fucked more?
No. That's against natural law.
Agreed.
That's not how we were built, man. She's wired a certain way. We're wired a certain way, and to unwire it and to try and do something else is just, it's backwards.
Yeah. Is there, if somebody's listening to this and saying, okay, all right, I'm getting this. I understand. I think I understand who I need to be or the difference I need to make. And I might be contacting you, Keith. But when somebody decides, a man decides to lean into their full attractiveness, does it start with a proclamation, or does it start with some sort of action? In other words, is it a verbal commitment to your spouse, to your wife, of a change, or is it simply an action?
Well, here I bet you every guy in here is going to laugh at what I'm about ready to say, because it's true. And if they don't know it's true, they're going to realize it's true. Every man has pretty much already promised his wife he's going to change. He's going to be better. He's going to do the thing. And the wives are so tired of the rhetoric and the fucking empty promises that all we say is, dude, let's not talk about her for the first 90 days, for the first 8 weeks, whatever it is. And let's just go to work on you, because most men, here's what I discovered in myself first, and then in the guys that I coach, and then the people that are around me. And that's this. Most men say their word is their bond. Every guy you meet, my word's my bond. And then you're like, okay, cool. But when your wife asked you and you told her you would hang the painting and you didn't do it, was your word your bond then? And they're like, well, maybe not. And if you ask every wife that becomes unattracted to their husband, and when I say attraction, Jamie, I don't want it to just be like you got to have biceps and abs. No. Attraction means you actually are attracted. You're leaning into this human being and not being repelled from this human being. And most wives, when they're unattracted to him, I mean, they eye roll. They're like, oh my God, here he goes with his, January 1st things again. His body's out of shape. He's when he says he's going to stop by the store, but then he's really late and forgets to stop by the store. And she just goes, fucking, of course, you never do what you say you're going to do. So most men's word, they say their word is their bond. It's usually not. And the second thing is most men say their family is their most important thing. And dude, very few men have actually invested in becoming a better husband and a better father. So like their words are empty. So almost every client that comes in and works with us, or anybody that hears us, resonates with the fact that shit, I've already proclaimed I was going to change, but then they do this stuff that the people with pleated pants and leather tasseled shoes say, and nothing. They watch their husbands, these wives watch their husbands, almost like they say, stop, you're overdoing it. You just stop. And because here's why they know you're doing it for them. And we hate people that do stuff for other people. We want you to do it because that's who you are. So I always say, let's get to work and let your actions prove. And that is the biggest thing, whether you're trying to get your wife back, because we've helped guys get their exes back. That was where I started, because, that's Jessie left me and I had to get her back. And that is a whole psychological cluster function that is so, everything's very counterintuitive. And what I ask guys, I go, let me ask you, to try and get more sex or to try and get your ex back, let me ask you this. Have you done all the logical things, like everything that you think you could do or what your buddies at the office are telling you. They're like, fuck yeah, I have. And I go, and how did it work? And they go, not very good. I'm on the phone with you. You know what I mean? And I go, do you know why that is? And they're like, why is it? I said, because it's not a logical battle. It's a psychological battle. And a psychological battle, you and I both know that the number one rule of psychology is everybody wants what they cannot have. And so when a man becomes the most attractive version of himself, a guy starts working out and starts getting back in shape, and the wife goes, oh my God, are you cheating on me? Why are you going to the gym so much? And he's not like, oh, I'll stop. Oh, you don't like that? I'm sorry. He's like, no, I do it because I take pride in how I look. I love being able to look at my muscles and go, well done, good sir. And so I'm doing it for me. So I become the center of who I'm doing it for and nobody else. And that is where the woman goes, oh shit, this guy's actually not doing this for me. He's doing it for him. And a man that does something for himself because that's his standard, that's the most attractive man on planet Earth.
I love that. I want to go into the 5 dials. So we've got parenting, partnering, producing, playing, and power. Why those 5, and describe why you call them dials.
Okay, perfect. So, well, earlier in the conversation, I was talking about the mechanism as a single man that caused women to be attracted to you, and how you lose it when you get married, but how you can reproduce it. I want to hit that because then it will set up for the 5 dials.
Sure.
So when you're single, and most guys have said, hey, remember you're single, you had options. You weren't tied down, so to speak. There was not just one lady that now had all your affection. And guys understand that concept. And what happens is if you know there's multiple candidates signing up for a job, or there's multiple people putting offers in a house, it makes you as the offerer or the candidate a little fucking nervous, right? You're like, I hope I get the job, or I hope I get the offer accepted. Well, that's how women feel about a highly valuable, supremely valuable man. We call him a provocateur, a man that provokes women to lust after him. Okay.
I like that.
So we've got options, but as soon as you say, I do, most guys mistakenly think it's done rather than realize they're stepping in the starting blocks, and it's done, meaning it's just begun. That's first, because most guys stop putting the effort in anymore. That's why they gain weight and all the other bullshit that they do that cause their wife to be unattracted to them. But here's the thing. Is when they stop doing it, when they say I do and they act as if it's done, they start to act as if they have no other options. And in reality, they don't. But what happens is your wife starts to realize in perception, he has no options either. Like if a lady comes up to your wife and goes, hey, do you think Jamie's cheating on you? And you look like a good looking dude, so she wouldn't say this. But in your situation, if she goes, who would want to have sex with him? Give me a break. The lever that used to give you all the leverage, I've got the options, now is totally gone, because now you have no perception of options whatsoever, because who the fuck wants you? And that's where the whole psychology of this thing snaps within a woman's brain. And she's like, dude, I've settled for somebody that nobody else would want. That's one thing. That's not all things, but that's one major thing. So when I want to be the most attractive, I want to get better and better and better every single day. And this is why I work mostly with entrepreneurs and high performers, because that's our mentality. Not everybody's like that, but that's our mentality. And so when a woman sees a man going after everything that he wants, that's near and dear, and he takes care of them, and he puts his attention on them, and he shines on them and is attracted to them and knows how to treat them right, oh, then she goes, fuck, dude, my wife knows every woman that we meet wants to fuck me. And she goes, and what does that give her? The sense of, I'm the one. I'm the one, motherfucker. You guys can all lust after him and go maybe diddle your bean to him while you're laying in bed, but I'm going home with this guy. Every woman wants to look across the room and go, that's my man. And when she can't say that anymore, that's when the attraction starts to go down. And dude, we talked about wiring earlier, right?
Yep.
So when she met you, your woman was attracted to you. I don't believe attraction really is a choice. People just go, wow, I'm attracted. Any guy looks at a woman and go, I'm just attracted to her. You like redheads? I don't like redheads. You like blonde? I fucking love blondes. Like, I don't know why I'm attracted. I just fucking am, right? Yep. Well, when you stop doing attractive things or you start doing unattractive things, that same chemical that caused them to be attracted to you automatically starts to drift and drain out of who they are. And that's what leads to the I love you, but I'm not in love with you, because the attraction starts to fade out from them and they go, I don't know what to do. There's no spark here anymore. And it's because you started to do unattractive things or you stopped doing attractive things. So how the 5 dials came up was I started running like, what actually does drive attraction for a woman, for her man, when she's already attracted to him? And what could we say, what are the actual things that make a woman attracted to a man across the board, that if you were to nail these, you would be what we call in married game, the catch of the county. And our concept, the catch of the county, is that for some reason your wife decided to leave you or she died, you know for a fact there would be 100 women at your front door going, I hope I'm the next Mrs. whoever this is. That's called being the catch of the county, not the, oh man, I wonder who would date me. That's loser talk, man.
I love that. I love that. Of the dials, you talk about turning them up, turning them down. This might be a very tactical question. Is every dial meant to be set at 5? Is every dial meant to be at the very, very top? Or I think 5 was the top of each of your dials if I saw them on your website. Or are they supposed to be sort of tuned into something a little bit different, more individualized for that man? So am I supposed to be a 5 out of 5 as a parent and a 5 out of 5 on all of these, or no?
Well, yes, to be the most attractive. Why I got dials, because I'm an old guitar player, and I always think in terms of like an amp. I want to be cranked up, you know what I mean? Shoo, 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 shoo. So I want to get dialed up. I want to be dialed in. A little bit of wordplay there. I used to call them silos or buckets, and I don't really care what they're called, but we use dials. And so the reason I call them, or the reason why why we need all of dials up, is because when you're dialed in and dialed up on all these things, it creates you to be the most attractive version of you.
Got it. When somebody starts to commit to this work, it doesn't, it may depend on the circumstance, but I'm curious about the ease or the speed to result. In other words, they start working with you. They uncover some things that they've been doing to minimize their ability to be attractive to their wife. In other words, they're not being attracted to themselves, as you said.
Yeah.
How much action, how quickly have you seen results start to happen where the energy shifts and it's felt in that relationship, where they're having more sex, whatever the metric is?
Yeah.
I'm curious about the ease or speed. Like, is this one of those things where it's like, it's a simple concept, but not an easy application? Or is it like, no, it's actually both, but you don't know it until it's a light of shine, but you can see results instantly?
Yeah, I like that you used the light of shine analogy, because that was the analogy that I gained. When my wife left me, I hired 3 coaches to try and figure out how to get her back. I didn't actually believe any 3 of them actually went through what I went through, but their psychology was sound. So I'm like, okay, I can buy into this. And having had relations with a lot of women, I go, oh, wait, shit, I forgot that. And what happened was I felt like I was in a dark room. If you're ever in a dark room, you don't know what's in, and you're like, what the fuck is all this stuff going on here? And then the person flips the light and you're like, oh my God, this is all my shit. That's how the light bulb went on for me when Jesse left. It was like the biggest frying pan across the face and the biggest light bulb at the same time. I was like, oh my God, I'm the problem. So what happens is you use the word that I use all the time, and that's energy. So if you have 2 magnets that are the wrong way, they can never push them together. And that's what a marriage feels like a lot of times. And that's an energetic thing. But once you flip the magnet, it instantly goes back. It doesn't slowly go back. It's almost like you can't even like hold it apart.
Good analogy. Yeah.
And that is exactly what happens. So we have about 70% of the guys that go through a program, and these are some loose statistics. So if it's 68, I'm a liar. If it's 73, I'm a hero. Okay. So all I'm saying is, right around 70% of the guys, within the first couple of weeks, their wives notice very drastically, oh my God, I feel like I have my boyfriend back. And it's 100% because of the energy. The guy is not, a lot of guys will ask for sex and their wife will deny them and reject them. And what happens? They go into pouty little bitch mode. Oh, well, or passive aggressive mode. Like, well, maybe if I got more sex around him, maybe I would, take out the trash more often. And then she's like, oh, you little toddler, little fucking tantrum. Holy shit, right? So what happens is the energy switch is to, wait a second. I don't even care if she has sex with me for the next whatever. I'm not worried about that. I got to worry about me. I'm going to start taking the trash out because that's my job. I said I would do it. You know what? I'm going to invite, I tell guys all the time, invite her and Dana. And oh, by the way, the answer to the question is some guys are in some deep, deep fucking holes and they've got some deep resentment and some of them have cheated on their wives. Some of their wives have cheated on them. So it's hard to say a blanket statement, but I can tell you that once the energetic shift changes to where the guy goes, I actually don't care what my wife does because and I say this, we're going to clean your side of the street. Let's not worry about her side of the street at all until yours is really, really, really clean. And when they go to work on their thing and they start playing with their kids because they love their kids and they start showing up to serve their wife simply because that's what a good dude does. Like, oh, you took out the trash. That doesn't, like, no one's like, wow, my God, let me go get my favorite lingerie. You just fucking did what you said you were going to do, my man. So when that energy flies into the relationship, the wife goes, he didn't even ask me for sex. He didn't even hint at it. Because that's what most guys, right? They're washing the dishes and like, maybe later, head upstairs. She's like, dude, you did a dish, my guy. So it's the energy and it happens so fast for a lot of dudes. And the most common text I get is the guy sending me a screenshot of their wife texting him saying, I feel like I have my boyfriend back.
That's amazing.
Which all that means is, wow, your energy and effort putting in this relationship because you actually care is noticeable.
Is there any role at all? You said it a minute ago, but I'm curious if there's a willing partner involved. But you said clean up your side of the street, don't worry about hers. Is there any role at all for the wife? If I don't know, if you mentioned you talked to 10 of them, but maybe you're not talking to them, but the husband understands, or the wife understands what the husband's doing, working with you or whatever. Is there ever a role for the wife? So you might have guys out there that are, I'm just thinking about this, that are saying like, yeah, I'm going to work on me. My wife, but she's on board with me working on me. Like I think about people that join my mastermind, right? Gobundance, like my wife's on board with it, right? They don't want to be in it, but they're on board with it. They're willing to give me X support. Is there any role for a guy listening that's saying, well, my wife's on board. She doesn't want to feel like she's not a part of it. Or is it just like, you just got to do this for you. And her role is not part of this at all.
Well, we do have wives where the guys know, they're like, I'm telling my wife I'm joining this men's group to make a better version of me, and she's all in support of it. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. You know what I mean? Like, well done. Cool. That's amazing. Normally I just tell the guy and just go, hey, you know what? Let me work on this, and then let's meet up in a couple months and figure out if there's something for you. We do actually have a woman's program because enough of the wives were like, hey, shit, dude, my husband's changed so much. Like, how do we get involved? And so we just recently started that. My wife and I started that, and that's been really, really powerful. But mainly it's a lot of wives are actually just sitting and waiting, going, I wonder if this is going to be the one that sticks. Because a lot of guys have made a lot of promises and don't do it. And what typically happens is a wife wants to start either subconsciously or consciously, once this man starts living the way of the provocateur or actually living like a provocateur, a supremely valuable man, however you want to, his most attractive self, she subconsciously or consciously starts to test him. Here's why. And most guys freak out about this. And when they come into our program, we go, no, you want to be tested. They're like, why? I go, because people test what they want to trust. If you were to sit down in this chair and you fall on your ass because the thing falls apart, and I go, oh, Jamie, dude, my bad. And I put it together and I put a few pieces of duct tape on it. Dude, you are definitely testing this chair before you sit in it and make a fool of yourself again, right? Yeah. Well, that's good because you are testing what you want to trust. You want to trust me that this chair is now good. Your wife wants to trust that now you are what you say you are. You actually, your audio and your visual actually are in true alignment. She wants that, but she has to test to make sure this is because you want it and it's not because you're trying to get something from her. Because a lot of women feel like walking vaginas. That's what my wife said. She goes, God, I feel like I'm just a walking vagina. Like you just want to fuck me and show me off. I'm like, you're not wrong. And that was me being a selfish, being a total dickhead back then, right? Not understanding this thing. But here's the beautiful thing. Once you gain someone's trust, when the trust goes up, the lust goes up. And that is the real key. Because when she tests you and you stand firm and you know how to pass these tests, and we talk all about how to pass your wife's test in our program, and we go really deep in it, and we help guys understand the psychology of it. And I'll give your guys a very simple test on a very simple way to pass every single test from here on out. When your wife says, "Damn it, Jamie, you're always late. Damn it, Jamie, you never think about this. Damn it, Jamie, this is," your very first 3 words out of your mouth are, "I know, right?"
Why those words?
Because what you're saying is, you're not wrong, and I probably need to work on that. And I'm not going to get defensive, because defensiveness is the #1 lady boner killer of all time. And only kids do have chocolate all over their mouth say, "No, I didn't eat a cookie." And so you look like a child when you go, "I'm not always late." It's like, dude, you were late on Monday, you were late on Tuesday, and you were late on Thursday, and you fucking forgot to take our daughter to ballet class or pick her up. You were 17 minutes late there. So I already have the proof. So when you say, "I know, right?" what you're saying is, I don't have to defend that. You're probably right. And I should probably work on that. And then a woman goes, "Oh my God, he received it. What the fuck?" Because you're aware enough to realize that you're a dodo bird too, dude. Keith Yackey isn't perfect. I just got a white belt mentality to everything I do. I'm like, yeah, I fucked that up. You're not wrong.
Yeah. To your point about not being perfect, I wanted to ask the question this way. I was going to say, I assume you're not in the zone 100% of the time as far as being a husband. Maybe you are. Maybe you're there. But I'm assuming there's like recovery at times where you may not overall, but like in certain aspects of whether it's communication, the way you're showing up, or focusing on her versus you like you're supposed to, you slip. How do you recover? How do you and your wife agree on you getting the awareness, the light shown before she ends up leaving in a U-Haul with your daughter? Do you have anything that you do communication wise, like when that energy, when those magnets are starting to turn back the wrong way? Is there anything that you do specifically to make sure that the magnets don't turn, that the U-Haul doesn't get purchased?
Well, here's the thing. We keep our score daily so that never happens. But let me give you some very practical examples of how I fuck up all the time.
Yeah.
And this is why I say reputation over appreciation, reputation over validation. My reputation with my wife now, after putting in the work for the last 6 years, is he does what he says he's going to do when he says he's going to do it without fault. So if you think about credits and debits, I've been putting enough credits in, or enough credits into the account that when you fuck up, you know what I mean? Like, hey, my employee fucking blew $5,000 last week and it was a total debacle. Well, that doesn't really matter. It's like it's a fuck up, but it's like, but that my employee made me a bunch of money too. So classic example. I go and eat at my favorite taco house yesterday. And on my way there, my wife calls and she goes, "Hey, what are you up to?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to go down and grab some tacos over at Coastal Kitchen." She goes, "Oh my God, I love that. Can you order me a this, this, this?" So she tasked me. And I'm like, "Yeah, no problem." I eat my tacos. I'm not used to ordering to go. It never happens. I get home, I come in, I'm like, "Hey, what's up, guys?" They're like, "Oh, we've been waiting for you. We're so hungry. We're so excited." I'm like, "Oh, shit. I'm really sorry. I totally forgot." They're like, "You really did?" I go, I really did. I'm really sorry. My reputation with them is so pristine and so 98% perfect that they're like, it's so not like you to do that. And I'm like, "I'll go back if you need me to go back." They're like, no, we'll just Postmate something else. I'm like, "I'm really sorry, guys. Like, man, I fucked up." But you get to the reason why I'm not defensive is because I fucked up. And they weren't like, "Oh man, you're the worst person ever." There's like, well, that's really rare for Keith to do. So I have enough credits that when I make some mistakes, it's the smallest little debit that it doesn't really matter.
Gotta give you credit, man. Your analogy game and your saying game is on point. You work on this. I gotta believe you work on this. Stare at the mirror. No.
It's honestly, dude, I've been somehow it just flows, dude. And
it's awesome.
I love it.
I love people trust what they want to trust, or people test what they want to trust, and then into the analogy of the chair. That was sort of a wow. I never really thought of it that way, and then the analogy just brought it home. So just kudos to you, man. You got your communication is tight in that regard. And I want to talk about communication. So what I've got so far as we're talking through this, that's very clear to me, is the role of the man is to lead. And the role of the man is to work on himself, to be the most attractive version of himself for him. You've sold me, and I hope everybody listening, on those points. And you're right. I think about my own marriage. When we're going through cycles, it's, when it's like, wow, we can't keep our hands off each other. And then it's like, it's been a couple of weeks, right? It is more that I'm bringing a taker, needy energy in those times versus, charging forward. Yeah, my story, quitting a big corporate executive position and, taking my power back and being like, that was a really, really good time. I was fully in my manhood going through that. But then there's times when, it's like, oh, babe, I love the employee analogy, going back to that, coming home like an employee, just checking in, seeing how things are, captain at work, I don't know, lip dick at home.
Captor.
Captain
at work.
I should have went to you. You've got them all. Captain at work, captor at home. I love it. But I heard
you just gave me an analogy. Thank you.
There you go. I heard you or your wife talk about this communication style. So here's the example I could think of, and then you gave it an analogy here, or a saying. The example, I say this to my wife all the time. She'll say something like, "Should we go in the store and pick this up for the kids?" And I'll say no. But then it's like she's disappointed that we didn't go in the store and pick that up. So now my thing is like, are you asking me, or are you saying that that's what you want to do? Like, which one is it? The way I've heard you describe it is that women communicate in the covert and men are overt.
Yeah.
Can we talk about communication for a minute? Let's assume we've done some of the work that you're talking about. There's still that very different way of communicating. How have you, or what suggestions do you have, or how do you bridge that gap? Like, give me that example. My wife says, should we get extra food for the kids? And I'm like, no, we don't need it. Am I doing the right thing by me by answering in my power? Or am I not hearing what I'm supposed to be hearing in that particular conversation?
Well, I could give you an answer to that one, but what's that?
I said, coach me. No.
Yeah. Okay. What I would need to know more context about your wife and who she is and how she is. But in my situation, if Jesse said, I say, well, do you think that's a good idea? Like, do you think that's a great idea? And she'd be like, well, yeah, because this is like, well, then let's definitely do that. Because I would know my lane, and that is her asking me about what all the kids need when they do and don't need it. I know that's not my lane. And so her and I are really clear in our roles. I'm like, if you think we need it, let's go in. And if you need a fucking donkey's shoulders to throw it over, you got mine. But but another analogy that tends to get up more is like, picking something to eat. What do you want to eat? I don't know. What do you want to eat? I don't know. What do you want to eat? Rather, where a guy would be like, hey, do you want chicken or steak tonight? And you leave them with two options. So you're kind of more leading in that regard. But when it comes to covert and overt, this is how it happens in our house. Jesse might say something, and I'll pause and go, are you asking me to go do that? Or what would you like to have happen here? Just make your request known, and let's see if we can make it happen. So I'm always getting clear on, what do you want? What are you saying? And if she goes, well, I just, you should know that. I go, well, I lost my mind reading license 42 years ago when I was born. So I don't know how to read your mind, but I got a servant's heart, and I'd like to help you if I could. So you make the request known. If I got the ability to do it, I'm on your team. Let's fucking rock this shit. So it's kind of that, hey, I'm going to coach her up to actually communicate in a way that's not just like me running around like, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. What did you say? Oh my God. Like, I'm not going to do that.
I've heard your wife talk about planning sex.
Yeah.
Is that something you've learned from most women through most men, or maybe on the other end of it is preferred? She had a really great talk about this. She's like, look, I showered, I'm in bed. Now you want sex. Like, I'd rather know early in the day that we're going to, I can prepare, I can do what I got to do. I can, whatever. And then I can plan my evening. I'm just curious, is that, quick backstory. I heard a guy at one of our events talk about every Friday, my wife and I have sex. And I was like, damn, man, like, that's sexy. In my mind, I'm judging, like, no spontaneity, no fun, no whatever. And I know each personality type, there's different types out there, but is that more of a prevalent need or demand or want that I'm really aware of, the desire to plan sex?
Well, have you heard my analogy on this?
I don't think so. Maybe I lost it in the prep. But
okay. All right. You're going to like this one. I think the
audience love analogy.
All right. So I used to tell people all the time, we plan our sex. we do plan out our sex, and they go, well, man, can it be as good if it's planned out? And I say, I don't know. Have you ever made a reservation at your favorite restaurant? And then you're eating the Wagyu beef, and the maitre d' comes by and goes, how's your steak? And you go, I don't know. It's okay, but I had to plan to be here, so I guess it's not that good. Said no one ever.
Yeah.
So here's what we've done is I believe that planning sex gives here's why I believe it's better.
Yeah.
Number one, Christmas Eve is always better than Christmas Day.
True.
Or rather than Christmas Eve is always better than Christmas afternoon. Christmas Eve, the anticipation, what the fuck is in the box? Remember as kids, you're shaking it like, oh, is it this toy? Oh, fuck, that's heavy. That might be Nintendo. You know, we're thinking about what this could be. And of course, my older brother's like, nah, these are underwear and socks for you. And we're talking shit. And there's all this anticipation. Well, my wife and I have found that that's the case too. We can start sending end plan emojis and peach emojis and squirts. And so we're building up. The build up is almost the greatest part, because once you release, you're like, all right, I'm fucking done. You know, I'll eat a sandwich and watch a game or something, right? So the build up, Christmas Eve, is way better than Christmas afternoon when you already know what you got. You've been playing with it all morning. So we like that. But here's what's interesting. It's the psychology for a man's brain that when he knows he's going to get sex, it almost immediately bleeds his neediness. If you know Sunday night, you're going to get laid. Wednesday morning, you're going to get laid. You're not walking around Monday going, fuck, am I going to get laid this week? I don't know, dude. And then you start, hey, I washed this dish and, maybe this time this week. And then you start being this little fucking pansy little, like, I don't know. And she's like, what the fuck, dude? So we found that if we have a couple times during the week, we know we're going to plan it, that gives us this free energy, that then the spontaneity is like, I know we did it last night, but man, I'm fucking horny as shit, dude. My testosterone's kicking in. Get over here with that fucking sweet little ass. And she's like, oh, okay. And then I can pursue a little more. So we've actually found that when you plan it, it increases the ability for spontaneity, for expectation, and for the anticipation. We find it's way better. And then just the reservation of the restaurant analogy, it pretty much silences all haters.
That's an incredible analogy. Again, maybe that's the name of this podcast, like the greatest analogies ever for how to get laid.
Oh, you know what it is, dude? I was a stand-up comedian. I did about 200 shows. I was on the strip for like 3 or 4 nights a week for like, I don't know, months and months and months, or 3 or 4 times a week for months and months and months. And as a comedian, you're always thinking about if it's this, what would it be like in this way? Or how do we flip the script?
How many, I did stand up for a short period of time as well in Boston. You were in LA?
Yeah, Vegas.
Vegas. Oh, on the strip. Got you. On the Vegas strip. What, just a very quick aside here. Like, why did you stop?
Oh, dude, she's a late night mistress, man. We're doing an 8 o'clock show and a 10 o'clock show, and I'm hosting the fucking thing, and I'm not getting home till like 1, and I'm trying to get up for my 5 a.m. workout. I'm like, Jesus. And so what I wanted to do is I didn't want to be like this big stand-up comedian. I wanted to learn how do I make people laugh on demand? Because I like speaking and communicating. I have been since I was 15, whether I was a pastor or whether I've been up in public speaking or whatever. I know that the leadership and the spoken word are inextricably woven. So I wanted to be able to get good at that. And one of my mentors told me that if you can get somebody to laugh, it will drop their guard and you can insert truth way faster. And I was just like, you're not wrong. And he was the funniest communicator I ever met. And he's still my favorite to this day.
That's awesome. Yeah, I didn't make it out of the open mic scene. I probably did 15, 20 maybe not even open mics. This was a while ago. I was 32. So I'm 44,
Nice.
about 12 years ago, I guess. And it's
Oh,
a fascinating world, but same thing. You show up for an open mic, sign up at 8 a.m. You're not on till 1 a.m. or 8 p.m. You're not on till 1 a.m. It's a tough life.
Yeah.
Women are starting to come into your program, as you mentioned a moment ago. And your wife, again, very prominent on the Married Game podcast. How did that come to be? You said women started to ask questions, but like talk about the women's side. Who's the woman that comes? Is it with the man or is it on their own? Both? Who's the woman that comes to your program?
Usually on their own. And they're saying, hey, I'm the wife that's just dutifully having sex with my husband, but I feel deeply disconnected and I don't know what's going on. And it's usually a self-worth issue. We just find out that they have a boundary, but they're not willing to uphold it and keep it. And so we just speak life into them. I've found to realize that if somebody wants to tap into their best sexual life, they have to tap into the best version of themselves for what they will and will not settle for. And kudos to Jessie, because when Jessie left, I mean, we were moving into our dream home and she's like, I want to help you move in, but I'm not staying. And so Jessie didn't leave with a lot. People didn't think like she just left me and then went and found some other rich boyfriend. Jessie did not. That was not her case. She was like, I will fucking eat dirt rather than be in this fucking mansion with you with these beautiful cars and still be with you, you dickhead. So that's the energy that really wakes a spouse up. And she had every reason to leave, which probably will lead us to the dials one of these days. If you want to talk, we don't have to. I'm enjoying the shit out of this conversation. You're I can see why you did comedy. You're very quick on your feet, quick-witted.
Appreciate that, man. Thank you. I try to be. I will call out the analogies. You mentioned the dials. You want to dive deeper.
Let's hit them.
Hit them. Let's go through.
All right. So here's 5 dials. These are the 5 things that every woman is judging their man on, and you should be judging yourself on. Here it is. First one is, how good of a parent are you? I was such a bad parent. My wife said, I don't want to have a second kid with you because you were such a horrible one with the first one. I had 3 other kids that now are 20. My son turns 25 in a couple of weeks. My daughter turns 21 in tomorrow. And I have another son that's 22 and he'll turn 23 in December. So I already went through a divorce, altered those kids' lives. And you would have thought I'd learned my lesson, but I was horrible with our 2-year-old daughter, didn't change any diapers, barely, my wife didn't even want to go on date night because she thought, oh my God, I can't leave this one with Keith. And so what I realized and came to realize is that women were built to raise children and they will love their child more than their husband 100% of the time. How I know this is because moms don't divorce kids and moms divorce dads all the time. So it just is the way it is. And I realize that this is a piece of them. This is an extension of who they are. And when you're not showing up as a good dad, all my friends go, Keith, you're such a great dad. I go, dude, I just like hanging out with my kid. If that makes me a great dad, cool. But I just spend time with her and hang out and I do shit she wants to do, not shit I want to do. I don't know that sounds like some rocket science fucking parenting program, but it seems to be working really well. And I hold my daughter I make sure she carries her own weight. She asked me for a laptop. I wouldn't give it to her until she learned how to read. So she goes, I don't know how to read. I said, well, I'll teach you. So we went and bought a book, Teach Your Kid to Read in the 100 Easy Lessons. By lesson 43, she started learning how to read and she goes to Montessori school and she goes, I'll have my teacher teach me. I said, all right, well, you come home and you read these 12 easy to read books without messing up one word. I'll give you a laptop. And I made her work for it. And she did. And it was the most proud moment of her life. So I was such a shit dad. On a scale of 1 to 10 on that dial, I was a fucking 2 or maybe 3. And my wife just was like, fuck this guy. It's such a turnoff for a woman to see her husband just neglect their kids. That's
real quick, before you move on to the next dial, this is a really interesting point. This is probably something in our marriage right now that I would talk to. And, I'm sure it's similar around there. And there's sort of a tie-in to the discussion around masculinity nowadays. So for my wife, she has her parenting style. She's a woman, she's a mom. And so she has maybe more the nurture style. Me being a man, I have 2 boys, I feel this sort of obligation to raise men. And I feel this need to make sure that, they're 8 and 5. They're not little, but they're not big either to, yes, love on them. And I hug and I'm very affectionate with my boys. But there's also a stand up straight or I'll knock it out of you sort of, not maybe verbally, but there's sort of that energy that I bring. And it creates an issue for us. Like I see it as you don't understand what it is to be a man. So you got to leave this man shit to me. And she might see it as, I don't want to say toxic. She's not that person. She's not the person who believes in the concept of toxic masculinity, but she sees it as like unnecessary. Like there's a better way. Here's a more effective way of communicating and getting the same result.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any thoughts on that in particular, but this
I do.
And we'll go into masculinity. I have that written down as a topic here, the Andrew Tates and the Jordan Petersons and all that. But if you could dive in on that, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that divide.
Yeah, well, my wife says some of that same stuff. And I just look at her very simply and very calmly, and I just go, she doesn't have two moms.
I say the same thing. Yeah.
So of course you're going to see it differently. I want you to see it differently. You're a mom, you have a vagina. I'm a dad, I have a penis. I will guide, they need this. It's two sides of a coin, and it's two rails on a railroad track. Without the one, without the other is damn near lopsided. So, and sometimes my wife's like, that's a little rough. I go, that's the real world. And that's the world I live in. And that's the world where we hunt buffalo. Buffalo don't come out and say, hey, I know you're hungry and your family needs to eat. I'm the one. Pick me, go ahead and harpoon me and shoot me and then take me home.
I think that's the line. Like you say rough, and I'm not talking about like if I grab an arm, if I'm in their face, if you can feel my like not acceptable, like if you can feel that like overbearing, it's got to be scary, like a bear coming on them, like just no touching even, but just you can feel that energy. That's where it feels like my wife feels as if it goes too far. It sounds like it's the same for yours.
Yeah, I just I'm raising a daughter with this one, but I have two older sons. Both older sons are, they're in bands, they're tattoo artists, they do really, they do cool shit. And they like to box and they like to be men. And I've always encouraged that. They grew up playing sports. They like, my son was a fullback in high school football. And I just like knock the shit out of it. Your sport is violent. Knock the living fucking shit out of the person in front of you. If you got the ball, don't stop till you get to the touchdown. If he wants to tackle you, tell him to fuck off and put a good shoulder pad right through his nose. So it's like, that is being a man. That's what these sports are for. So, but my daughter, I've learned that my mind, I can use my mind with her differently, and I can ask her intelligent questions.
Yeah.
So I understand that you think that that's the way, but what if it's actually this way? Would you want to be prepared for it being this way so you're not shocked? Well, I guess that's true. Okay, well, do you think I have a little more experience at this thing than you? Yeah, probably. Perfect. Would you consider trying it my way? So that way you can at least know you've done both things, and then you can test the results for yourself. She's like, well, yeah, I can do that. I go, okay, cool. I said, and I've also, every time I tell her to do something, I go, will you please trust me? And then she now goes, if she has any doubt about what I'm saying, because I spend a lot of time with my daughter. She's really into gymnastics now. So we go to a lot of trampoline parks, and I'm always trying new shit. She's trying new shit. And I'm like, I know you can do that. And she goes, how do you know that? I go, every time I've told you could do something in the past, were you able to figure it out? She goes, yeah. I said, can you trust me? Have I earned your trust? She goes, you have earned my trust. I go, well, this isn't one of those times where you get to cash in on that trust. And she goes, okay. So it's all the things, man.
It's funny. I always say, I don't have girls. You have both, obviously, but my friends with girls, I always say, with boys, you could be like, all right, guys, run into the wall. And like, all right, just run into the wall. Like, that's what they do, my two boys. But if you say that to a girl, it'd be like, wait, well, why would I do that? Are you trying to get me hurt? Like, the brain works so differently with girls than it does with boys. But anyway, let's continue down the dials. We'll touch more masculinity before the end. But what the next dial after parenting?
Second dial is the partnering dial. I call it the best friend dial. Does your wife feel like she can have a conversation with you where you actually care? You're enthusiastically and energetically involved in the conversation, rather than, hey, if I listen to her for 15 minutes down here around the kitchen counter, am I doing this just to trade, for 2.5 minutes up, upstairs in the bedroom? And I always say that connection outside the bedroom is what actually leads to connection inside the bedroom. And so what a lot of guys are is they're just bad listeners. You know what I mean? They're like, they're on their phone. They're like, well, people can tell when you're not paying attention. My friends all know that if they're on their phone in front of me, I'll just stop talking. They're like, no, keep going. I go, I don't have your attention, and I'm not going to sit here and waste my breath, because then you go, what did you say? Exactly, motherfucker. If you want to talk with me or hang out with me, then put your fucking phone down. Or dude, I can leave and we can text, because you like texting. My friends know, they all know. If they're on their phone, like, hey, dude, can I check my phone? I go, yeah. Like, there's times where I understand you have to, but it's like, why are we hanging out? Like, I'm a really present motherfucker. And that's what I've noticed that every human being likes. That's what a good communicator is. They're a great listener and they ask great questions. So if you're just that for your wife, and a lot of guys are like, dude, she always talks about dumb shit. I go, and what do you think she thinks you talk about? Dumb shit. Yeah. But a teammate, a partner goes, Well, tell me about it. Wow, that happened. And if any guy wants to learn how to communicate with their wife, all you got to do is eavesdrop how they talk to their mom and how they talk to their sister and how they talk to their best friend. They're like, oh my God, tell me more. What? They gave you extra money at change at the supermarket? Oh, Martha always does. I know, right? And you're like, who fucking cares about Martha and the change? Except I'm not saying I care about Martha and the change. What I'm saying is I care about you. And we all know my firm opinion, it used to be a hypothesis. Now I think it's a fact, but it's I still have to label it as my opinion. And it is that what a woman craves more than anything on planet Earth is the attention of a high value man. And she's hoping that's her husband. And you were that high value man to her, or else she wouldn't have said I do at one point. It's just, are you that anymore? And so I look deeply, I listen to my wife. We laugh. My wife and I truly are best friends. If you heard about the shit we talk about at a bar, you would think it would be between like me and guys. But my wife and I are just like that. But we've earned the trust to be able to say what we want. We know who we are. We love who each other is. We say some crazy shit. And I'm like, oh, dude, you're dirty. She's like, no, you're dirty. I'm like, that's fucking dirty. Like, that's a human being over there. How can you talk about them that way? She's like, well, she would look better without her top on. I'm like, fucking Jesus, Jesse, I agree. But let's eat tacos. She's like, taco. And so her and I, we have a great fucking relation like that because we are so honest and open with each other. But I had to earn that by being a good listener. And for her being a good listener to me, if she interrupts me, I go, hey, yo, it's half sentence, right? She goes, my bad. I go, but if you heard the whole sentence, I'd love to dialogue back, but hey, let's maybe not cut each other off. Yeah. So it's just this best friend dial of like truly knowing, because my wife said, dude, I felt more lonely being with you than if I was single.
Yeah.
So when I was like a 1 or a 2 on this dial. So I'm worst dial guy ever starting this whole fucking thing off.
Makes sense. All right, let's go to the third dial.
Producer dial. Killing the buffalo, bringing back the pelt for the family and bringing back the steaks for everybody to eat. Most guys are good at this, especially entrepreneurs and high performers. But normally guys are like, hey, I'm doing this for us. And the family's like, yeah, except you're never here.
Borrowing from the other dials, essentially, right? You're adding an 11 and a 12 to the dial that goes to 10 on this one and taking it away from the other ones.
Exactly. And they're just like, yeah, like for my wife, she's like, yeah, we got all the cool shit, but I wanted you. And I literally trade all this in to just actually have who you are, care about who I am, and us be together. But women don't like cloth seats forever. They don't want to be in a 1-bedroom apartment forever. They are built to, I've found that most women are what drive men to succeed in a major way. Because women love resources. Women love to know that they're going to be taken care of. They want to be safe. If you don't know where rent's coming from, your wife's not like, wow, I can't wait for us to have sex every night. She's like, hey, bro, are you going to fucking provide or what? Are we going to eat or what? Do you got this or what? So most guys nail this, but they overdo it in a lot of ways as well.
So well said, man. I can go back for me quickly. 2017, I got a promotion with the company I was working for at the time to be an executive. So 50,000 people, I'm top 200, 300, whatever it is, right? Moves us from Boston, where the job I had put me on a plane 45 weeks a year, to Michigan, where I'm not on a plane anymore, but the job is bigger, more responsibility. And after a year being miserable in that job because it wasn't what I thought I wanted, and ended up me leaving a couple of years later, which is great. I've set off on a great life as an entrepreneur since then. But she said, you're here, like traveling is gone. You're here, but you're not here, because I was all in on producer. I got to just double down and triple down on a job that I hated doing because I got to work my way to the other side of it. And to my point that I said, I borrowed from every other dial in order to be an alpha Uber producer for sure. So
that's a great analogy. Borrowing from the other dials. Yeah.
Take it. It's all yours now.
I love it.
Number 4. What's number 4?
This is where most guys really suck ass, and it's the player dial. The player dial is being fun, being fit.
Real quick. It's funny that the player dial sucks ass. Do you get that? So I had to go 1. Of all the shit you said today, I didn't pull out a lot of little things you said. There was like words like stiff and this, that, but that one I had to sneeze on. So
well done, Jamie. Well done. Yeah. Most guys are not good at this, man. They They forget to date their wife and to make life fun and to be flirty and to be lighthearted. Most guys are so defensive. And I ask guys all the time, like, when was the last time you took your wife on a date? And they're like, I don't know, 6 weeks ago. I'm like, but be honest. They're like, okay, 10. I go, what'd you do? They're like, oh yeah, we swang through Chick-fil-A and went and got some parts at Home Depot. I'm like, well, no wonder you're not getting more ass in the toilet seat. Like, this is not romance. And women like to be romance. They want to be dated. They want you to put effort in. They want to know that you're thinking about them. They want to know that, you actually wear clothes that fit, that you'll dress up. So, because they know that that's important, because you know that that's important. And so, I just kind of have reset the standard, for guys and go, hey, think about it this way. You remember the girl in high school that you wanted to bone? For me, it was the head cheerleader, Kristen, and I go, well, imagine you're instantly single right now and she shows up in your DMs and says, wow, looks like life's really good, man. Let's catch up. You're like, cool, it's a date. I'll pick you up at so-and-so and we'll go have fun. You wouldn't show up with your fucking moccasins and gym shorts and fucking baggy ass, wrinkly ass, bacon neck t-shirt. Dude, you'd walk in there, you would put effort into where you're going. You'd, be doing your push-ups out the door. You'd be spurting on some cologne. You'd be brushing your teeth. You would go because you want to get laid. And you know that in the real world, you don't get laid unless you put some fucking effort in and have a little game. Why the fuck do you think it changed when you got married? This is the person that sees all your farts and burps and everything. Like, dude, you got to put it on even more. And I just go, just let that be a standard for you. You're put in effort and show that you put in effort. And you don't actually, the women I've talked to, they go, you don't have to put in that much effort. Just show me that you put a little effort in. Here's something your people listening right now, we can all do right now. Find out what your wife's favorite band is and order her a band tee off of Amazon and have it show up and just go, I saw this, I thought of you, I thought you'd like it. What? That's simple, dude. $22 fucking on Amazon. Go get her a fucking Gwen Stefani shirt or a Queen shirt or some other shirt that bands that we don't listen to that they love. And it's just this playful mentality. Most guys have forgotten how to play. Because dude, what did Cyndi Lauper, the great American poet, say? Girls just want to have fun.
She did. That's
so
true.
This is what it is. And this is, that's why date night's non-negotiable for us, but it's not just dinner and a movie. It's, hey, where would you go? Where did you go when you were early on? It doesn't have to be expensive either. It just has to be thoughtful and like you actually care. Hey, let's get a babysitter for this. We're going to go do this. I got some play. Axe throwing, fucking whatever. There's all sorts of really good, fun ideas. She wants to feel like she's dating you again. And everybody goes, dude, we don't have sex like we did when we were dating because you're not fucking dating her anymore, you dum-dum. No shit. Like, it's so fucking simple, man. Maybe that's why I get so passionate about it. Because I was the biggest fucking dummy of all of them. Dude, you know what I got on this dial? Fucking 2.
No shit. It's a great point. It's a great reminder about, how would you show up if the high school sweetheart or whatever, the hot girl you want to bone, if she showed up, how would you show up on that date? That's a great reminder. We do date nights every Wednesday evening. We're a bit limited in Punta Cana versus where we were in Michigan because, you had axe throwing, you had rage rooms, you had indoor skydiving. Here, it's like beach, kind of thing. But that's a great reminder for me and something I can honestly say I need to dial that back up a bit. So I appreciate that. Let's talk about power. Number 5.
The power dial. This is where guys are looking for validation. Oftentimes they fall in what I call the mom matrix. And, guys are like, you ask a guy, hey, how many kids you got? They go 3, but my wife says 4. It's like, well, okay, maybe if you live in Arkansas, but not a lot of moms want to fuck their kids where I live. You know what I'm saying? So
I love that. Yeah.
So it's no, dude, I don't want my wife to look at me as a kid. I want her to look at me as a bad motherfucker that does what he says he's going to do when he says he's going to do it without fault. That I'm not doing this seeking her validation. I'm not when I ask for sex and she goes, no, let's not do that. Like, we don't have a rejection. Like, my wife never rejects me with sex. She just, it's never rejection. It's always a rain check. Hey, not tonight. I'm really fucking tired, but you want to come by in the morning, or, hey, can we do it tomorrow? Yeah, no problem. Like, just because Keith wants a nut doesn't mean Keith nuts. She's got a body too and autonomy over her body as well. But it's this, I'm not doing this stuff to get sex. I'm doing it for me to ask myself, hey, and really just this one principle. If you do what you say you're going to do, when you say you're going to do it without fault, to the smallest gnat's wing degree, your wife will start to trust you like she's never trusted you. That's why when you fuck up and you don't bring home dinner, it's like, that's like a 1 in 100 chance that happens. And she's like, well, my reputation with her is, dude, Keith never forgets this shit. So he must have had a lot on his mind or just fucking forgotten. And the answer is, yeah, I did a ketamine journey about 3 hours earlier, and I was maybe in a little bit of a fog as well. I was going to eat tacos. You know what I mean? So like, there's all this vibe, but she's like, but this is why most men, when they listen to the bullshit online today, is why now I'm really fucking fired up, Gruber. You really fucking fired me up. Is they're listening to this bullshit about how a man basically hands his balls over to his wife, and it's like, you need dishes, baby? Oh, I got you. And then maybe I can get, maybe I'll get a tummy rub later. And it's like, no, motherfucker, stop this bullshit. It's just this pandering attitude. And it's like, no, dude, I'll do the dishes because you asked me to do the dishes because you need help. I love helping my fucking spouse. You're my partner and you're a badass motherfucker too. I'm happy to help you. I don't need shit from you. That's the thing. And this is, I'm going to show you the standard. Here it is. We have a saying in Married Game. It says this: her response does not dictate my standard. Her response does not, my standard is my standard. But the second piece of that little corollary is this: her response dictates how long I'll put up with her living below my standard. This is how you get the power back. I'm not giving you an ultimatum. I'm just saying we have a problem in this relationship that you and I both got to come up with a solution for. This is not my problem. This is our problem, and it's an intimacy and connection problem. And so if you decide to be callous enough to not care about my needs or wants or desires, you're allowed to do that. But you also don't remain on the team forever. If Don Mattingly, the old fucking New York Yankee first baseman, rookie year 1984, all number 23 with the Fu Manchu, if he starts fucking fielding balls amiss and he can't hit the ball for shit, he's not a Yankee forever. You're a Yankee because you produce for the team, because you're a great fucking teammate, because you add value to this team. I don't want anybody on my team ever in anything I do that does not add value, because I know I'm going to add value like a motherfucker. So
great point. I love
that's how you stand in your power. And most men are like, oh my fuck, dude, I'm not saying be a dickhead and I go fucking wash my clothes and suck my dick. And that is not a servant heart. That's not a servant hearted leader. Servant hearted leader just says, hey, listen, we're teammates, right? Okay, perfect. And first and foremost, if you want your dick sucked, you got to find out what is her version of what is her version of her getting her dick sucked. And it's probably not you sucking her dick. Well, hopefully it's not her sucking her dick. But not on my watch, Gruber. No, but here's the thing. But here's the thing is, what if you found out what was really important to her and you showed up in a major way for her? Because she's laying in bed thinking, God, I wish he was this. And I know I know it is. Me and Jesse talked about it on the podcast. I said, what is it for you? She goes, I want you to do acts of service without me having to ask. I just want you to know, you know what I like. Why don't you just fucking do it? And I'm like, you're not wrong. And I don't feel powerless or disempowered by doing that. I feel empowered to show up for my partner in a way that makes her feel so radically loved that her overflowingness of her buckets being filled are like, get over here, man. Let me take care of you. I know how happy this makes you. That's standing in your power, man.
Incredible. It's generating.
Hey, listen, this isn't fucking rocket science, but it does feel like it's brand new, doesn't it?
It does. It's if I had to go with like boiling it down, there's a few things that are jumping to mind, and they may not be in order. But the first reminder I keep giving myself as you're talking is the importance of doing the work for you. Not, okay, I can manipulate or trick or make this happen for my wife, and that wins me points. It's it avoids the problem. I know I've done this of scorekeeping. Well, look, I've got like 2.5 jobs. I'm working all day. Then I come home and I do bedtime with the kids. I'm being a great dad. And like, you're going to complain that I didn't make the coffee in the morning. Like, I scorekeep. But if I'm fully working on me, just being a great dad, not because it makes me look good to her, but just because it is what I want to be, and it is, then that's one reminder that I got. The other one is, and I think it's encapsulated in the point about how are you showing up for your date, but it's remembering the basic fundamentals or not fundamentals, the basic chemistry that existed in the initial attraction. I think just by going there, it creates probably like the avatar of what you want to become. So it's like, if I remember back to how the attraction started, and you're right, like my wife's Latina, I love Latin women, so I've married a Latin woman. If I go back to the avatar of who I am, or who I was that attracted her, that's the standard that I could apply. And today, in order to become the best version of me for me, which therefore I become a leader in my home. So there's more to it, but those elements, like you said, like, duh. But this is why coaching is so important. This is why we join masterminds. This is why we join communities. This is why we join programs, right? Because I always say Michael Jordan couldn't see his shot. I've got Tim Grover. Do you know Tim Grover? He's coming on the podcast in a few months, in a couple of months. And he would get on a call with Michael Jordan after every game to tell him why he didn't have the right shot. Like, how dare he? It's Michael Jordan. But Michael Jordan knows I can't see my elbow when it's flaring. I need somebody to look at that and tell me what's happening. I can't see when I'm not releasing at the top of my jump. I need somebody to show me that. So simple. Everybody knows to do that. Michael Jordan knows to do that, but he needed a coach. He needed that outside view of it, right? And that's what you provide. So unbelievable, man. Let's bring this home with what I'm doing now, which are my final questions. So on the last episode, I had a gentleman named Nir Ayal on, and I asked him to give me a question that he would love to ask other entrepreneurs. Since you're up, you're that entrepreneur. And here's the question he asked. What important truth do very few people agree with you on from a standpoint of entrepreneurship?
Well, I know Nir. I met him in Genius Network years back. So he's what an incredible guy Nir is. So I'm going to give you two, and they're right about the same. And I heard this from a business coach, and I never heard it before. And so I don't know if it's that people don't know if it's true, but I just don't know if they've heard it very often. And that is, you don't have a business problem. You have a personal problem showing up in your business. And it's like, another way that it's said is, the level of your business will never outpace the level of personal development. And yes, we've seen fat millionaires and billionaires, but that's the exception, not the rule. And so, and the other thing that's kind of right around that is most people say that time is your greatest asset. And I disagree. I believe energy is your greatest asset, because if you had all the time in the world without energy to enjoy it, it's useless and worthless. And so that personal development of who you are, having energy, and people wanting to be around you is the coolest thing you could ever, and most value you could ever really truly produce in this world.
Great answer. And I'm going to send this to him. So I didn't know you knew him. He'll get a nice surprise. So the question then for you, for the next entrepreneur, what is a question you like to ask, or have you wanted to ask of other entrepreneurs?
If every entrepreneur says that when his marriage is off, that he doesn't produce as much because his head's all fucked up, and why does Sally think this, and why won't she blow me here, and blah, blah, blah. If every entrepreneur feels the effects of when the home is not right, it's hard for the office to be what it could be, why don't they focus more on figuring that out?
Great question.
I say that your marriage is your greatest profit center within your business. And it takes some real thought to really understand and realize that, but I think it's true.
You're probably right. Keith Yackey, man. Where do people follow you, learn more about you? Where do you want to direct folks?
Well, if they want to see a video about Married Game, they can go to marriedgame.com. If they want to learn more just about Keith Yackey, keithyackey.com is a great place to go. And the one social media place that I'm really active on, and I give shit away and have a lot of fun there. And we have a lot of cool clips from our team and stuff that are posted there all the time, is just at Keith Yackey on Instagram.
Appreciate you coming on, brother. This was great.
Thanks for having me, man. Thank you. This has been one of the more fun interviews I've done, and it's because of your energy, and I really appreciate you, man.
That means more than you could ever know. So thanks for saying that. Great way to wrap it. Thanks, brother.